Afternoon to everyone who is tuned our way. Thank you so very much for joining us on Viewpoint. It's Wednesday, it's smack in the middle of the week, and that means, yes, I'll be back again this afternoon at 5. So I really need for you to just follow, because there's always some good stuff to share with the listening and viewing public. Special good afternoon to those of you who might be following the live stream. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. By the way, there are many places that you can go to get the live stream. Don't forget Facebook. PJ2 as well also have their Facebook page, so you should search for that, like it, and whenever we are featuring anything live, surely you will be part of it. So do my Facebook page, so we're all over the place. tvcarib.com, yeah. And if you're in your radio, on your radio, 1300 AM, 102.7 FM. I'm starting for a reason. Usually when I do start the program with the preamble of the Constitution, is often when I'm caught with my, pants down, if I'm going to put it that way. Because sometimes you expect to have a guest and then they don't show. And I always revert to the Constitution of St.Maarten because it relates to just about all of us. We're going to talk about some things today that might shock you a little bit. Some of it may not shock you, but let me just get this preamble out of the way. It says, "We, the people of St.Maarten, affirm that we acknowledge the guiding principles of Almighty God as the core of our values, inspired by the exercise of our universal right to self-determination, as was expressed in the referendum of June 23rd, 2000, with which we freely chose for the status of country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. We resolve to work together with the partners in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, with our neighbors in French St.Maarten, and with all peoples of the world on the basis of freedom, equality, peaceful coexistence, and international solidarity. We declare that we are a people that believe in the principle of democracy, the rule of law, the principle of the segregation of powers, the dignity and value of the individual, and the entitlement of all persons to the fundamental rights and freedoms. We resolve to provide for the continuing preservation of nature and the environment, and we also declare that we wish to establish a constitutional order based on an open and accessible government. And therefore, in order to record these goals and convictions, the following provisions have the force of law as the Constitution of St.Maarten." By the way, that is only the preamble. Then follows 131 different articles that form the Constitution of St.Maarten. With that said, I'm going to branch now and turn to my well-abled guest who is here to talk to us today, because he's bothered somewhat, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, he's bothered somewhat by the state of affairs of St.Maarten politically at this very moment. He used the word conundrum. You don't have to know or have heard that word before to realize that when you hear it, it speaks of something bad. Well, I'm going to let him break that down into bite size so that we can make sense of it. With that said, let me say good afternoon to Dr. Julio Romney, who is here with me. Of course, whenever he's available, I always grab him, because I believe some of the solutions to the many problems that we are faced with the solutions lies within him. He can probably break things open and make it a little bit more organized, but if only they let him. If not, he's just there with all that information, and all he can do is provide an advice. I believe that my audience deserve to hear some of this, because then they'll be able to make sense of a lot of what's happening. With that said, good afternoon to you, Dr. Romney. How are you?
Good afternoon, Julio.
I said a lot, didn't I?
Including conundrum.
Well, listen, while you're at it, if you want to greet the audience, you can do so briefly. But break it down for me, please.
Well, simple conundrum just means that the political problems that we are facing today. Simple.
Problems.
Political problems. That we are facing.
I couldn't.
And that's the most simplest way we can look at it.
That's how you put it. I'm going to go for a Google definition for the simple reason that you didn't say it the way I thought you would, but it says a confusing and difficult problem, or it could be related to questions. And there was an example given. It's like someone trying to find a job without having experience. And I think people can relate to that part.
Yeah.
Trying to find a job without experience, difficult that would be. So you're saying that the St.Maarten conundrum is that difficult?
Is that difficult?
All right.
Okay, because we're faced with two major conundrums. And I must say thank you for having me in today, for honoring my request. Because I just wanted to have a conversation with you and the people of St.Maarten. Okay, my fellow St.Maarteners and well-wishers, what have you. Because, we are faced with a conundrum today, political conundrum. In essence, we're looking at the issue we have now, within the Prime Minister and the Minister of VSR. And the big one is the central bank.
Okay.
Another central bank, great political issues. I guess tonight, probably today we'll speak more so to the
Central
to
Bank?
the Prime Minister's issue with the Minister of VSR, and then at some point probably I could come back and we'll speak to the central bank, because there's too much basically to be gathered, to be speak and probably give it its good attention in an hour. Okay,
All right.
and everyone.
The issue with the good minister of VSR and the leader of the party that he's on, which happens to be the prime minister, I don't know how much clarity you could bring us to, because they're in the same party, and I don't see why they should have any kind of problems.
And I would again say here today is because clearly we do not understand, comprehend, however you want to style it, governing. Clearly this is a governing problem, one understanding their position. And we can start here by saying, that, let me take one step backward. And I would say, there's quite confusion whether or not the Prime Minister was within his right, and or the governor overstepped his boundary. And we noticed we had two persons that offered an advice on that. There's a good gentleman from Aruba, as well as a lawyer from Aruba. He has a real difficult name, Santos something, real difficult name, but I'll pronounce it later. I'll try to pronounce it later, as well as for Professor Van Rijn. Okay. I tend to lean more on the side of Van Rijn. And one will say, why? And I wouldn't say not on the side per se, but I think it's more understanding that one can clearly see the governor somewhat, went beyond his authority. Okay, and I say that too because of our constitutional construct. Okay, one can go back clearly and understand if you go to, let me see, Article 41 of the Constitution, right? It says clearly what St.Maarten, as part of the kingdom, okay, has the authority to carry out its internal affairs autonomously. The issue here is what? A St.Maarten issue. And I thought that's within the purview of our self-governing. The governor's responsibility is what? To look out for a representative of the kingdom, to ensure that our laws, etc., are followed or,
Not breached.
Not breached. Okay, so all within the construct
of the law.
Of the kingdom. That's his responsibility. If he has a problem of with St.Maarten going beyond or breaching the constitutional construct or the constitutional laws of the kingdom, good. Then his responsibility then is what? To inform the Kingdom Council of Ministers. So with all rights, he had the right, he was operating within his right to not to sign the decree.
Okay.
But at that point, what he has to do, inform the kingdom. Okay? That's his responsibility. He has no real authority over the our self-governing areas. So based on that, you can see clearly that's for those reasons, I tend to lean more on, yes, he was somewhat, or probably one can say straight out, beyond his authority. Okay? And to get a clear understand, going back to what I said earlier, that we really don't understand our governing. We see that the minister, okay, the prime minister had an issue with the VSR, the minister of VSR, right?
The minister of VSR,
the prime minister had an issue.
Chief of cabinet for the minister.
Well, he had an issue with the minister of VSR. Okay, I'm not going to get into
the details,
the details of that, okay, because now the issue now is what he is with the minister of VSR. I'm not going to get into the personal, because we're not looking at the personal things there. We're looking at what the form of government, the structure, the system as it should work. And I will say that it's going to be difficult for St.Maarten to move forward until our political leadership understands our governing structure, understands parliamentary democracy, understands the executive branch, the legislative branch, their duties and responsibilities within the structure. Mm-hmm. Going back a second, you see that when the prime minister had issues with him, they wrote a letter to the VSR instructing him what? That he must resign. And I'm going to quote from that letter to give persons a clear understanding. And it says, on the issues within your cabinet, and I don't want to get too into the issues, clearly that he, okay, have continued to undermine the integrity of proper functioning of your ministry. Keyword here, you have continued to, to do proper functioning of your ministry. It is not his ministry. And we all work like that. Everyone within government believes that that is his ministry. Even the parliamentarian, that is his. No, it is not your ministry. It's the government ministry. It's the coalition's ministry. It's that part of the executive body. It's like, let's say if you have a football team or what have you. You can't say, it's my football team. No, you are a member of. And if you're functioning from the standpoint that is your ministry, then of course it's going to fall. Everyone you find that across our government. You find a parliamentarian, he gets into parliament, he feels, okay, it is his seat, it is his doing. No. Parliamentary democracy, it's a team thing. And this is what we fail to understand. And until we get this straight in our mindset, we cannot move forward. And he articulated everything in that letter that was sent to the good minister was your. No, it's not his ministry. He was appointed at that position. And more importantly here is that the ministry doesn't mean that because you are the minister, then you can go and do as you please. No.
Isn't that the mindset, though?
That is the mindset, unfortunately.
Because I think I seen a problem with your ministry because he's one fully in charge. But I'm trying to listen to you to understand
that doesn't make
something that I might have missed.
Yeah, that does not because he's in charge makes it doesn't mean it belongs to him. See, the one must understand when we come on ministry position, okay, the governing coalition, mind not the coalition, which has a majority in Parliament, they propose and form a executive body, and they're appointed to these positions. The whole idea in the system is that the coalition should come up with what? A governing program. And you ought to follow the governing program. You are put there to govern that, to manage this, so to speak. Because the parliamentarians, they're more concerned, or their job is to what? Pass laws. Okay? So the person that would be directly involved in the community would be the ministers. They would be on the forefront. So they're put there to manage that. But we see that ministers come up and do everything. The same in the parliamentarians. Parliamentarians are walking to a parliamentary meeting and throw a motion on the table, and what? The other members of that coalition has no clue, doesn't know anything about the motion. Hello,
Mr. Romney. I'm sure I'm hearing some of these persons who are already involved in politics, and some who are even seated on the chairs as members of parliament, are saying what you're saying is not actually true, because they're going to defend
their position.
Yeah.
And I would say to those, go ahead.
No, well, I was saying, what is it they're missing? What is it they're missing?
Understanding the principles of parliamentary democracy. Okay? Just like anything, like I refer back to the game of football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, right? There are rules and regulations. You have to follow these rules and regulations in order for it to work efficiently, in order to work effectively. They are more concerned with themselves, that personal politics, and forget. And here too, if you don't understand the structure, you could be the best baseball player. If you don't understand the structure, the rules and you don't follow the rules and regulations, you're bound to lose. Go back to the football team. Okay, you have your persons in the front. You have I don't know much about it in terms of the positions. Okay, but you have the forward person. You have those that defend the goal. You have to work in unison. And this is what they're failing. They think that they are a government in themselves.
I'll tell you what I'm hearing while you're speaking, and I'm sure that my listening audience who are following along probably feel the same way. Right after every election, there seems to be a total breakdown of a unification of people working together to a point where it becomes individuals. As a matter of fact, sometimes when you look at the ministries, they look like independent governments. You have the Ministry of Theatre, you have the Minister of Visa, you have the Minister of Finance, you have the Minister of Justice, and they all look like they are their own government.
And that is the problem. That is our problem.
So we from the moment after everything is finished, then it comes to a different level altogether, which is bad, you say?
Yes, yeah, of course. Our lack of understanding what it means to govern. Okay? And in our sense, particularly in a parliamentary system of government.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
nothing is person would say that
there's no school that teaches you teaches us then
no,
about the parliamentary system.
There's none.
So
there's none, and we don't get that basic in our school system. They're not provided with that. That's and we talk about that all the time in terms of civic education.
How the system works.
And the system works.
Yes.
We believe that, or most, if not all, of whether we're talking parliament and the members of parliament, including the ministers, council ministers, they believe their duty is to do these things on their own. You see, no, it's a government. It's a team. It's a teamwork. Okay? The coalition government form a governing program. We said, okay, these are things that we have to do or we want to do over the years. And we said, okay, we have the ministers, you're responsible for, because one person can't do it all. You're responsible for this, you're responsible for that, and therefore they should be able now to execute that governing program. We have no governing program. And if there is one, of course there is, we don't follow it. We feel that we should do whatever we feel like, whatever comes to mind.
The part of the governing program, to me, and I don't think that what I'm saying is actually 100% correct, but it seems like the plan of action for the government and how it would carry out the business of governing for the period of time that they are allotted seems to often disappear in terms of there is no written structure, or something is always put together later on after the coalition is formed. And that it seems to be a disappearing act when it comes to the vision, the plan. Because everybody have a different plan to begin with. And I believe the plan is supposed to be the standard or the yardstick used to be able to see how they can work together, because the plans are similar. But that is something that has been missing. So
and here again, the essence of our political conundrum.
Yeah.
We just lost within them. Okay, but let's get back and look at this whole issue. And I guess one point is that Van Rijn, he came up with a number of different.
Can you summarize, give a brief summary of what he said?
And basically, one of his arguments, he said that the governor's authority is limited, and government authority is limited. Okay, it's limited that even at some point he can go to chair the council of ministers, but only an advisory position. Only an advisory position, not to tell them what to do. These are political decisions that must be made by the council of ministers, not the governor.
But he can attend.
Of course, he can attend, and he'll do that in a advisory position. Another point he's talking about, the governor has a dual role. Yeah, he said, well, the governor, head of the government of St.Maarten.
Yeah.
In essence,
and that's an important part, because
but in essence, he's not. Okay, it's sort of a ceremonial, so to speak. He's not the governor. I mean, in its true sense, he's not the head of government. Okay? The parties formed that coalition, and he go. One can say, or one might think that one will believe that he's head of government because what? The governor has to sign off on a piece of legislation in order to be enacted.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's only there to ensure that the overall mission of the kingdom is followed. Okay, because his key position there is what? Representative of the kingdom government.
Let me bring this article to your attention in the Constitution, because this is important as well. Article 32, under the title of the government, it says the government shall comprise the king and the ministers. In other words, if you're referring to who are actually the government, I know people usually say the people are the government, but these are representatives of the people anyhow. The government shall comprise the king and the ministers. The king is represented by the governor. So he is part of the government. Isn't that? Is that the correct interpretation?
No.
And the ministers clearly shall be responsible for their acts to Parliament.
Okay, I would say no. Why I'll say no? And a person would say that he's part of. I say no. You know why? What our government structure? The governing structure of the kingdom, constitutional monarchy. It's not a monarch. In the true sense of an absolute monarch, the king, yes, is head.
Yes.
We are in a constitutional monarchy. So therefore what? Government is run by a constitution, not the king. And once it's clear stated, all laws, etc., are carried or passed by what? The Kingdom Council of Ministers, not the king. The king is informed. The king has no role, to an extent, in politics.
Okay, in
See,
Holland, that is no...
One must get it clear that it's a constitutional monarchy as opposed to an absolute monarch. So the king is there and head of state, more so as a ceremonial thing, okay, but we are governed by a constitution. And laws, etc., are passed by whom? The Kingdom Council of Ministers.
No, in our case, localize it, because we pass laws here too as well.
Yeah.
The Parliament of St.Maarten,
Okay, passes law. What? Within the purview of its autonomy.
yes.
So they're based on our education, social system, all that stuff. Yeah, those areas that we are responsible for.
But at
Right?
the same
So-
time, for that law to be passed, it has to be signed off by the king or the representative, which is the governor.
Because again, because of our free association, okay, it has to be signed off by them because they want to make sure that these laws are within the follows the overall mission of the kingdom. So in
Which
other
is-
words, you can't be passing laws that's in conflict with the kingdom.
Yeah,
So
that is
see,
understood, because
and people don't get this clear. Yeah, and as our free association, the system that we're in, we have quite a bit of autonomy. The kingdom,
so what role do the governor play in all this?
the governor, representative of the king. So his job here is to ensure that these laws, the overall mission of the kingdom, is being followed. And if it doesn't,
So he has to be up to speed with what, the statutes of the kingdom, or the laws governing the kingdom of the Netherlands, the monarchy, the constitutional monarchy. He has to be up to speed
yeah,
with that.
without question, yeah. Okay, his job is representative of, and if he sees anything that's in conflict,
Yes,
then he would report it.
he has to. Well, I think the understanding was that anything that he does not sign off on because it's breaching something, he's supposed to send it for annulment to the kingdom
And
government.
it would not become law unless it is signed off by the king. So the parliament could pass the piece of legislation, but in order to be enacted,
Yes.
in order to become law, it has to be signed by the king and a minister with that responsibility.
So with some of the political issues that we're having, you're saying that, well, if the Council of Ministers is submitting anything like an ordinance of that kind, or there were certain type of laws that they put together and send it for him to sign off, and when he gets this and he doesn't sign off, or he neither send it to be annulled because something is wrong with it, after that, how does that work? Is he supposed to he see a problem, he just leave it alone, and because it's not in keeping with maybe the statutes, then he send it to the Netherlands for the kingdom government to annul it?
Yeah, the kingdom government. So if he sees a problem, he reported to the kingdom council of ministers. Right? And there,
You're saying report, but
well,
I think the understanding is that he has to submit it. Well, it's a report.
it's a report. Yeah, he submitted. He said,
and then
the
they
kingdom,
would advise accordingly where you cannot be signed. It's a no.
for instance, his in this case, okay, he's the governor's responsibility to sign this decree. If he sees it an issue, he doesn't have to sign it. He can say, okay, I refuse to sign it because of A, B, C, D. And he report that to, or inform, if you want to use that word, inform the Kingdom Council of Ministers. And then the Kingdom Council of Ministers then would, I guess, let the king know, and then they would annul that or send back instructions saying you cannot pass this piece of law, you cannot implement it, therefore annul it, change it, do whatever you have to do. So he was within his right not to sign.
Okay.
Yeah, he was within his right not to sign.
So what then?
But his position at that point was then to
Send
inform
it to the Netherlands.
and then there's still some question here too, because this is for all intent purpose, this is a local thing.
Okay.
It has no, to my mind, it has no real kingdom connection.
So maybe that's the reason why he didn't send it to the Kingdom Council.
Yeah. Okay. It doesn't even transcend, because he would then be concerned with integrity, etc. And there was no really. I mean.
So why are they asking for advice from other astute laws, people who have who are lawyers and Kingdom Council lawyers and that kind of stuff?
Well, my best guess here is that they want to. That too, in itself, is political. Okay, they want to show that they're correct, or it's all political. It's all a political thing, to my mind, because that was not needed necessary, to me, but he would do that in order to get political mileage, so to speak.
I guess that's why the whole thing for you is a conundrum, because it's so difficult. I want to ask you one question, but I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to take a break right after. I'll give you an opportunity to think of it and answer when we come back. Why can't we have open conversation with the governors about their function and their role? That is a top secret. They're not allowed to speak to the public, and we'll talk some more on that when we come back. This is Viewpoint. I'm here with Dr. Julio Romney. Let's take a break quickly, and when we come back, we'll continue. Okay, welcome back, folks, to the program. I'm here with Dr. Julio Romney, and he's talking to us about what he called St.Maarten's conundrum. Okay, I think I have a call for you. Let me take that call because I don't know who it is. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Yes, listen to the program.
Can you be quick though? We need to give Julio.
Yeah, okay, you said the governor representing the king or queen, but he's silent. He can call on the parliamentarians or ministers to do something, because St.Maarten is blessed, and the people them suffering because of the politicians,
Okay.
You see, since we left Curacao, we like colonial Curacao. I hope they leave that central bank. The governor is too silent. We'll have to have the election to have governors.
Okay.
All
right. Okay. That's something different. But he mentioned something there as well about the central bank, and I think you need to get some time to talk about that a little bit. But before we go to you, I really need you to ask why. Even the caller just mentioned that he's silent. They're silent. We don't hear from them at all until maybe there's a special going on somewhere and they're giving the main speech. Why are they silent? Why can't they? What's the problem? Are they afraid to get involved in politics? Have they been advised by the Dutch government not to speak? What could be the reason? I don't think I'm asking the right person, but I think because we're talking about this topic, I need to know.
The governor not getting involved in politics is understandable. Again, we go back to our structure. We are an autonomous constituent state of. It's outside of the government authority to get involved in local politics. Then his purview is to deal with the issues of the
kingdom.
The kingdom. Mm-hmm. That's his concern.
Yeah.
And if we, St.Maarten, outstep our boundaries or do something that in conflict with him, then he would report that to him.
Okay.
His duties, his responsibility is not to get involved in public.
Okay.
Because what we are a self-governing territory. So they don't get involved.
So
in
if we need to know what the governor role is, what is he supposed to be? I mean, can he explain what his limitation and what his he is not a freedom to discuss that?
I think the person or the body that should explain that is our schools, our understanding of our government structure.
Oh, and how it works.
That should be part of the civic education. And I try personally. I try to, each time I get through my organization, St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Studies, to have that debate.
Yeah.
To educate persons on our structure.
Yeah.
So it's not his responsibility to get involved in the politics. No, he should not. He have to keep out that. We are self-governing territory. If we have our political issues should be solved locally, not by the kingdom.
I had a conversation with one of my listening audience, and they mentioned that you often explain a lot of things about how it should work, but it don't seem to be working because we find that most of our politicians, so many of them are ending up in prison to begin with because of they have not killed anybody, but they're serving time because of their functioning in the government apparatus. So what it is that we are not privy of that put us in such a position where we make those mistakes.
It's sad to say that they find themselves under those circumstances. Morality, bottom, morality. Has nothing to do with the system. Morality. And it's not confined to St.Maarten. There's other persons in other islands or countries or what have you that end up there because of morality issues.
Yeah, but if we have a certain amount of knowledge of how the system works, wouldn't that be somewhat of a deterrent, knowing that if you're going to do this, is because you're going to break the law, breach the law, which would cause you to end up in prison?
You can't teach morality. You either have good morals or you don't.
Okay.
So and it's unfortunate. And I guess it comes more to the forefront because we are a small society, a small community, and so therefore everybody knows everybody.
Hello.
So
yeah.
But
okay, let me take this call quickly.
Okay,
yes, caller.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Moore. How are you?
Good.
Just one thing I want to say. If there wasn't any corruption in government, the island would have been in a better place. Thank you.
What is it?
I guess he's saying that it's unavoidable. Corruption in government is unavoidable.
Yeah, morality. I mean, you find that all over the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because
you find that all over the
it's not us that get in trouble alone. Other people do get in trouble by doing wrong things too. And morality is how would you define it, in the sense that you're saying that if you are caught in a place where you might be wrong or questionable and the court have to be involved, a moral person would just step back and wait for the actions to be cleared, for them to continue, and we don't make those that's not a moral move that you often see from us.
Yeah, it can be taught. And and I'm not going to sit here and judge someone else, because it's just simple. You know it's wrong.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah. But
sometimes you're tempted. And for whatever reason, and I'm not sitting here trying to judge anyone, but and that. Our parents taught us morality, but sometimes when we grow up, we tend to stray away from those things.
Okay, when it comes to there is the article in the Constitution that spells out some of the things that you should avoid when you are placed in these functions, when accepting the appointment of ministers. You have to take an oath. And in that oath, a lot of things is mentioned that is often breached by ministers, because they make so much deals when they are ministers, to the point where they often forget that they made an oath on the Bible that they are not supposed to accept any pledges or gifts or to take anything whatsoever, indirectly or indirectly, and they're supposed to be loyal to the king and the charter of the kingdom as well as the constitution. And that is often breached, and nobody get any penalty for that. So those are some of what they would obviously get away with, and it help you lean more on continuing to do more, and you do more and more and more until you get even deeper.
I guess part of it too, probably a human flaw. You want more. You got, what you have, and just for whatever reason.
I guess my question is, we don't follow those things. That's what you're saying. The avoidance, what to avoid.
What to avoid.
What you're not supposed to get involved with. And as a result, we continually get into trouble. And I'm sure everywhere in the world where there is operating countries, they have things that they do that gets them into trouble. And so, as the caller said, if there is no corruption in government, there is no government. He's just making the point that every government have corruption.
Yeah. No question.
But if it's getting us into trouble, you're saying we can't move forward.
No, because if that's our focus, if our political leadership is gone and get into trouble, then there's nothing we can do.
If you had to advise, if let's say you're sitting behind a minister and you advise him not to, if you're privy, of course, because he don't have to tell you everything, it depends on your function. Would you tell them, no, you shouldn't do that? Don't do that because that would get you into trouble?
I don't know if I'll do that because.
But if you're an advisor, you won't tell them not to do something?
What I would do in that sense, okay, is advise them and give them a clear understanding of how they should function. Let's put it that way. Give them clear understanding of how governments function. I can sit, or anyone can sit for whatever amount of time and talking to a person about morality. If that person chooses not to, you can't teach them that. That comes from within. If I want to steal, I'm going to steal until doomsday.
Yeah.
The only thing can deter, and it deters some, and then it doesn't deter some, that if you get caught, you'll be punished, and could be punished severely. Obviously, that doesn't deter much of ours.
What do you wanted to say about the situation with the bank? I'm running out of time.
Well, I think that in itself, and I think probably we'll come back another time and try to
deal with that, because this one is a handful,
Yeah, and I wanted to, but like I said, the term is so short. I wanted to get into more of the advice that both persons made, as well as the advice that the governor or the defense that the governor put forward.
The two people that were consulted about what went wrong.
Yeah, Van Rijn and the other good gentleman from Aruba, as well as the governor, the governor's.
But why do we have to consult these persons as to what are we doing wrong? It simply means that we ourselves don't understand our structure.
Well, that's the point too. But much of that, to my mind, is political thing. It's
a mixture of politics and laws.
Defense, to show to gain political mileage, so to speak. Okay, but clearly, if one look and read all the different documents, that huge conundrum within not only the governing, but also within the political parties.
What can change things, Mr. Romney? What else do we have to do? Is it I kind
education,
of, if you ask me, I say learn the system.
Yeah, education, and chances are for these persons within our political leadership, it's too late for them. They're already gone. So we have to teach those that's coming.
Yeah, okay, because When you're talking about us having these problems, what about those who have been in there for all these years?
There's no way you're going to change them.
Huh?
You can't change them. Their mind have already been made up.
And I want to ask if that have anything to do with functioning now, much like how we used to function when we were an island council. If that too plays any in why we continue to make all these mistakes that we're making.
Yeah, to an extent. Because at that time when you had island council, that was what? A commission plan government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And within a commission plan government, that is embroidered there. They have that clearly that you find that the commissioner was also an island council member. There was like an agreement in there. Don't bother my department or my portfolio, and I wouldn't bother yours. I do as I please with that. See, there was this a union with executive and legislative branch.
Mm-hmm. But now, our constitution says there's a separation of powers. Mm-hmm. That is something that also have to be learned as well.
And beyond that, within the parliamentary system, there is no separation of powers. It's implied. Since when one speaks about separation of powers, meaning what the executive branch is distinct and separate from the legislative branch. That is not the case in the parliamentary system. Mm-hmm. Because where the executive branch comes from, directly out of what? The legislative branch. The executive branch is appointed by Parliament, okay? As opposed to in a presidential system where the legislative branch and the executive branch, what? Elect themselves.
Okay, so when it says that we declare that we are a people that believe in the principle of democracy, mm-hmm. the rule of law, and the principle of the segregation of powers, what are they implying?
Well, we believe in the separation of power. Mm-hmm. That's what's said here clearly. It's implied. So there is, but in actuality, there's none. Because what? The executive branch is dependent on the legislative branch. In a parliamentary system of government, the executive branch is not dependent on the legislative branch. Because in order to be a member of the executive branch, you elect yourself.
Okay, so isn't it true then that this present system that we have is pretty much like a platform for an independent country eventually, or because of what it is, we find ourselves in...
No, I wouldn't say it's a platform for an independent country. It's just a form of governing. And an effective one at that. If one follows the rules and the regulations of a parliamentary system and understand it, it's effective.
All right, we got to leave it there. I think, though, the transition from island government to country St.Maarten didn't help us much when it comes to the changes that were necessary for us to follow the new system.
Because we didn't educate ourselves.
Yeah.
We didn't educate ourselves.
Yeah, then this means I would have to have you come back to talk about the issue concerning the central bank, because we don't have any time for that.
When one speaks about central bank, most of them are talking about what? 50, 80, the actual division, as opposed to the key function of the central bank. Yeah. No one talks about the central bank because we don't understand what's the function of it.
All right, leave it there. I don't think we can ever get to the bottom of anything with such short period of time. But
no.
All right, folks, that's it for today. We want to thank you so much for sharing the time, and hopefully you have benefited some from what was discussed. Mr. Romney will be back with me for sure, before he leaves again. And it's time now for me to head over to the news, so I'm going to have to say goodbye, and thank you once again for joining me on Viewpoint. We'll be back tomorrow, God's willing. Join me then.